The skincare routine you've been sold for the last 20 years was built on a lie. Not a total lie, but a convenient one. You were told the old ways were primitive, that your grandmother's remedies were superstition, that the only real answers came in a clinical tube with a long ingredient list you couldn't pronounce. Then millions of people started smearing beef fat on their faces, getting results they hadn't seen in years. Suddenly, the dermatology world had a problem on its hands. In 2024, a single TikTok video by model Nara Smith, just her making a homemade tallow moisturizer in her kitchen, collected 3.6 million likes. Not from a lab, not from a clinical trial, from a pot of rendered beef fat and an honest result. So what exactly is going on here? And more importantly, what does it mean for you? Let's go back, way back, to a nobleman's tomb unearthed in Shanxi Province, China, dated to the spring and autumn period, roughly 700 BCE. Archaeologists, sifting through the burial site at Liujiewa, found a small bronze container sealed inside. When researchers analyzed the residue using gas chromatography and mass spectrometry, published in the journal Archaeometry in 2021, they found something remarkable: a face cream. It was made from rendered ruminant fat, cattle, mixed with a whitening mineral compound. A face cream that is 2,700 years old. The man who owned it lived in an era without lab coats, without ingredient panels, without a single synthetic preservative, and he had a skincare routine more deliberate than most people alive today. Here is the thing that should stop you cold. That fat was not chosen randomly. It was not chosen because it smelled nice, or because an influencer recommended it. It was chosen because it worked on human skin across generations of lived experience. The ancient Egyptians had already been doing it for over 1,000 years before that nobleman was even born. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical documents in existence, dating to around 1550 BCE, prescribes ointments made from fat of the ox combined with herbs and resins for skin protection and wound healing. This was not fringe medicine. This was standard practice across civilizations that had no access to petrolatum, no polyethylene glycol, no dimethicone. They used what worked. So what changed, and why did we stop? Before we get into that, I want to ask you something directly. Have you ever started using retinol because every dermatologist on earth told you it was the gold standard, only to spend the first 2 months with your skin peeling, burning, and looking worse than before you started? Drop a comment below, because that experience, what the beauty community now calls the retinol uglies, is so common it has its own name. If that happened to you, this video is going to explain exactly why, and what nobody told you, because what you are about to discover will change how you read a product label forever. Let's talk about the modern skincare machine. Walk into any pharmacy, open any beauty app, and retinol is positioned as the singular answer to aging skin. And to be fair, there is real science behind it. A landmark clinical trial published in 2007 confirmed that 0.4% retinol increases collagen production. A 2025 meta-analysis of 23 randomized controlled trials found that prescription-strength tretinoin does meaningfully improve fine wrinkles and hyperpigmentation. The data is real for the pharmaceutical-grade version, but here is where it gets interesting. Most of what you are actually buying over the counter at the drugstore for $30 to $100 a bottle is not tretinoin, it is retinol. And a rigorous 2021 systematic review published in the Journal of Clinical and Aesthetic Dermatology examined 9 randomized controlled trials of over-the-counter retinol specifically. The finding: 4 of 9 studies showed no statistically significant difference between retinol and the placebo. A placebo, meaning in nearly half the clinical trials, the over-the-counter retinol you have been using performed no better than moisturizer alone. That isn't buried in some obscure corner of the internet. It's in the peer-reviewed literature. You just weren't told. And it doesn't stop there. Retinol is contraindicated during pregnancy, completely off the table for women who are expecting or nursing. It is a documented irritant for people with rosacea, where it represents one of the highest risk topical ingredients. The National Eczema Association explicitly warns that retinol can trigger flares in people with atopic dermatitis. The adjustment period, the peeling, the redness, the sensitivity, the so-called uglies, lasts 2 to 8 weeks. Every time you introduce it, and the moment you stop using it, the benefits stop accruing. You are not fixing anything. You are managing a dependency. Compare that to what the ancient world was using on its skin. No adjustment period, no contraindication for pregnant women, no dermatitis as a side effect of the treatment itself. Now here's where the modern story gets uncomfortable. Because at the same moment that millions of people were quietly struggling with retinol irritation, frustrated by products that cost a fortune and delivered inconsistent results, the skincare industry was not searching for better answers. It was doubling down on complexity, new delivery systems, new derivatives, retinaldehyde, retinol palmitate, encapsulated retinol. Each one generated a new product cycle, a new premium price point, a new reason for you to upgrade. The message was always the same. You just haven't found the right version yet. Keep trying, keep buying. And this is the part that should make you angry, because the failure was not yours. It was a system that measured success in sales cycles, not skin outcomes. A system that classified an ancient, well-tolerated ingredient as primitive while selling you the refined, expensive, often irritating replacement. Your skin was not broken. The advice was designed around profit. So let's look at what beef tallow actually is and why it genuinely warrants attention with clear eyes, not with viral hype. Layer 1, the fatty acid profile. Beef tallow is composed primarily of 3 fatty acids: oleic acid at roughly 36%, palmitic acid at roughly 25%, and stearic acid at around 19%. The word sebum, your skin's own natural oil, derives directly from the Latin word for tallow. That is not a coincidence. The fatty acid overlap between tallow and human sebum is real, and it matters. Think of it like a biological dialect. When you apply a fat whose molecular composition closely resembles what your skin already produces, the barrier does not have to translate it. It recognizes it. It absorbs it. Grass-fed tallow, in particular, carries an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of roughly 1.4 to 1, compared to 16 to 1 in grain-fed tallow. That ratio matters because omega-6 dominance is associated with inflammation. A 2024 scoping review published in the journal Curious by researchers at the Alabama College of Osteopathic Medicine confirmed this compositional advantage and acknowledged the theoretical support for tallow's moisturizing properties based on its fatty acid structure. Here is where the modern cosmetic industry failed this ingredient. It never tested it properly. The Curious review screened 147 published articles and found only 19 that met inclusion criteria. Not one of them was a human clinical trial testing tallow as a topical product. Not one. For an ingredient that has been applied to human skin for nearly 3 millennia, that is a staggering research gap. The dermatology world did not investigate and dismiss tallow. It skipped the investigation entirely. Layer 2, what tallow cannot do and why that matters. Here is where intellectual honesty becomes the most important thing you can take away from this video. Because the viral skincare world has overcorrected. Tallow does not replace retinol. It is not retinol. It is not a retinol equivalent. And the claims circulating on social media that tallow clears cystic acne, reverses deep wrinkles, or heals psoriasis are not backed by clinical evidence. A 2025 peer-reviewed study in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology analyzed 200 social media posts promoting beef tallow skincare. 82% of posts recommended it for these conditions. Dermatologists accounted for just 7% of those promotions. And among beauty and skincare brands promoting tallow, 96% showed evidence of financial bias. 96%. They had a product to sell. That is not a wellness movement. That is a marketing machine wearing ancestral clothing. Tallow lacks squalene and wax esters, which make up a significant portion of human sebum and are entirely absent from rendered animal fat. Its vitamin A content, real but trace, exists in unstandardized amounts, estimated at roughly 5 to 10% of a therapeutic retinoid's concentration, and in a molecular form that has not been shown to penetrate skin meaningfully and trigger cellular change. Dr. Andrea Suarez, a board-certified dermatologist with over 2 million YouTube subscribers, put it plainly: you cannot simply have vitamin A present in a fat and expect it to behave like retinol inside the skin. It is not the same mechanism. It is not the same thing. And for acne-prone skin specifically, the oleic acid content of tallow presents a genuine concern. Research published in the British Journal of Dermatology has demonstrated that oleic acid at elevated concentrations disrupts barrier function, increases inflammatory signaling, and raises transepidermal water loss. Acne-prone skin already tends to have elevated oleic acid and depleted linoleic acid. Adding more oleic acid from an external source may not help. It may make things worse. So why did we stop using it? The answer follows the same pattern you will find behind almost every abandoned traditional practice: speed, scale, and synthetic substitution. After World War II, the petrochemical industry needed new markets for byproducts of oil refining. Petrolatum, the ingredient in Vaseline and its derivatives, was cheap to produce, stable at industrial scale, odorless and inert. It required no rendering, no sourcing of animal fat, no artisan knowledge. Manufacturers could make it in enormous quantities at a fraction of the cost of rendered tallow. Then came silicones, then synthetic emulsifiers, then the full parade of polymer-based moisturizing agents that dominate every drugstore shelf today. Tallow was not abandoned because research proved it inferior. It was abandoned because it was expensive to produce at scale, and because the petrochemical industry happened to arrive at exactly the right moment in history. The machine needed a reason to sell you something new. Your skin's relationship with rendered animal fat stretches back 2,700 years, and that history was inconvenient evidence to the contrary. So the industry did what industries do. It reframed the old way as primitive, unhygienic, unnecessary. And most people believed it. Because why would your doctor steer you wrong? Meanwhile, the rates of eczema, chronic dry skin, and contact dermatitis have been steadily rising across industrialized nations for decades, and the timing of that rise aligns almost perfectly with the replacement of natural emollients by synthetic alternatives. That is not proof, but it is a pattern worth sitting with. If you are still watching, that tells me something. And if any of this is landing, if you have spent years cycling through retinol products that irritated your skin, that worked until they did not, that cost you money you did not get back, then share this video, like the video now, because the next section is the most practical part of everything we have covered. Here is what you can actually do with this information. 3 options, starting with the easiest. Option 1, find real single ingredient tallow. If you want to try tallow as a moisturizer for dry body skin, cracked heels, dry elbows, or as a basic barrier product in winter, start there. Look specifically for grass-fed, pasture-raised, rendered beef tallow with no additives. Search for grass-fed tallow balm or pasture-raised rendered tallow. The label should list 1 ingredient, not 12, not 7. 1. If you see a list of synthetic preservatives and emulsifiers, you are looking at an industrial product wearing a natural label. Option 2. Render it yourself. This is easier than it sounds and gives you complete control over the source and process. Obtain beef suet, the raw kidney fat, from a local butcher or farmer's market. Ask for grass-fed if available. Place it in a slow cooker on the lowest setting for 6 to 8 hours until the fat has fully liquefied and any impurities have settled or can be strained out. Pour the liquid through a cheesecloth into a clean glass jar. Let it cool and solidify. What you have is pure, stable, unprocessed tallow with none of the oxidized byproducts that come from industrial rendering at high heat. Apply a small amount to clean skin. Less is more. A pea-sized amount covers the face. Patch test first, especially if you have acne-prone skin. Option 3. At minimum, know what you're actually buying. If you are not ready to change your routine but you want to stop being misled, learn to read a label differently. Any product marketed as natural retinol alternative that lists tallow as its primary mechanism is making a claim the science does not support. The legitimate natural alternative with actual clinical trial data is bakuchiol, a plant-derived compound. A randomized controlled trial published in the British Journal of Dermatology found it produced comparable wrinkle reduction to retinol with significantly less irritation. If you want an evidence-based, gentler option, that is the word to know. Bakuchiol. The nobleman buried in Shanxi province 2,700 years ago was not primitive. He was not uninformed. He was working with accumulated tested knowledge about how human skin responds to certain fats, knowledge that took millennia to build, and about 40 years of industrial convenience to erase. Tallow is not a miracle. It is a moisturizer with a 2,700-year safety record, a rational biochemical basis, and almost no clinical research because the industry that controls research funding had no financial incentive to study it. The failure of retinol to work for everyone is not a character flaw in the people it failed. Retinol is a product with real limitations that were systematically underreported in favor of continued sales. The knowledge was not lost. It was priced out of the conversation. We are digging up exactly this kind of overlooked, under-researched knowledge that is inconvenient for industry, ingredients, practices, and systems that got abandoned not because they failed people, but because they could not be patented and scaled. Tell us in the comments, what ingredient or traditional remedy do you want us to investigate next? And subscribe because we are just getting started.